What up guys, Dr. Nav coming at you live. So it is March 11th, 2019. It just hit 10 a.m. Central Time here in Chicago, which means we're about to find out if we match into residency right now. That awkward moment where you hope EROS has the right email. It's a nerve-wracking process. I'm in sympathetic tone right now. My heart rate is probably around 90 to 100 beats per minute. We got
Logging to the R3 system with their username and password. Should we be on the EROS?
Oh, maybe I need to log into EROS. You know, this is great for you guys because, you know, you're going to get the 411 on where you need to be to find out if you matched.
Service unavailable. Okay, so we definitely don't log into EROS.
No, it's because everybody in America right now.
An email. Bismillah. Charlie, we matched!
We just matched. What up, YouTube? Hope everybody's doing well out there. If you're watching this, you know that March 11th to March 15th was the most important week of my life, and I found out that I successfully couples matched, which I'm incredibly grateful for. So I'll be starting my first year of residency come July. You know, I was going through YouTube and I was looking around like, okay, I wonder if there's a video out there that just explains the whole process from beginning to end, step by step. And I didn't see that. So, you know, I was like, hey, why don't I do a video log of the whole thing? For the past 8 months, I've been documenting every single thing that I learned over the course of going through 9 different interviews and successfully matching. In this video, you'll get to learn how each program structured their interview schedules. This will include every question that I was asked during the interviews. We'll be getting into how I got more interviews and how you can maximize your chances of getting as many interviews as possible. Pros and cons of pre-matching. What questions I learned to ask during interviews. Along the way, I had the honor of connecting with many attending physicians and members of ranking committees who shared valuable knowledge about the match. Be on the lookout for keys, which are spread out through the entire video log. These are general tips and tricks that can help you live your best life throughout the entire process. Lastly, we'll be touching on how to maximize your chances of getting your top choice. And we'll conclude with my final reflections. This is 8 months jam-packed into 30 minutes, so I tried to make it as short and concise as possible. I have left the times here, so if you guys would like to forward to any part that you need help with, feel free to do that. I really do hope that you guys find it as helpful as I would. Just make sure you guys give this a thumbs up and subscribe to Medspiration if you haven't already. Join the healthiest family on YouTube. And without further ado, let the Medspiration begin. What's going on, guys? Dr. Nav coming at you live. I just got in for my first official residency interview. Got the Medspiration t-shirt on as always. Just got in, check this out. They left me a little Mercy Health residency program. First official interview. Just got prepped for my pre-interview dinner. We're getting ready to meet up in the hotel. So I just want to share my fit. They told me business casual, so I rocked that V-neck, you know. Still suited and booted. Good evening. I just got back from our pre-interview dinner. It was pretty cool. We had one program director there and some of the faculty, all of the students / doctors that are interviewing were all there. It was a good icebreaker. I feel like everybody got to kind of relax, crack some jokes, and get to know each other. It's pretty cool how connected everybody is through medicine and just geography in general. You know, the program director gave us a few hints. I found it really helpful and I thought it was really cool. So I'm looking forward to this interview tomorrow. It's I believe it's like 8 or 9 p.m. right now, and our interview is at 8 a.m. So gotta be up bright and early. But to iron my clothes, wish me luck. All right, guys, checking out. Check this out. Resident conference room. So I just got done with my first official residency interview. Wanted to share a little bit about what the interview process was like. So we got there around 8 a.m. and we spoke with the residency director, some of the faculty, some of the residents. And then when it came time for the interview, I got called into a room, had about a 15-minute interview with the program director. I wrote down the questions for all of our future resident physicians out there. I think you guys will find this useful. She did ask, what challenges have I faced in team scenarios? And what do you want from a program? What do you look for in a program? And then tell me about a time you faced a challenging situation with a patient and how you handled it. And then what was really cool is I got to talk a lot about Medspiration. So they asked me about our clean water project, our future missions in Cambodia. And, I got to tell them what I'm passionate about. And if anything, the biggest thing that I got out of it is, the program director was asking, so why do you do this? I know you're helping a lot of people, you inspire people on social media and all that, but what's Medspiration all about? And, it really, for the first time, it dawned on me. I was like, our goal is to make medicine cool. It's to make medicine cool again, because a lot of the world has lost touch with what medicine really is, and science is freaking awesome, man, for us nerds, right? So that was one of the biggest goals that I tried to paint for Medspiration. And then why our program? The program director asked us that. So once we got done with the questions, I spoke with another doctor, spoke with the residents. We had lunch together, and then after that, we went to different hospitals, just checking out the sites. So they gave us a tour. After the tour, we're done. So it's half a day from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Great experience. First residency interview is officially over with. What up, yo? I'm up in the bathroom right now. Second residency interview. Wish me luck. Looking forward to giving you guys some updates. All right. What's going on, YouTube? Just got out of my second official interview. It's pretty cool. The program's 15 minutes away from my house, so I'm already back home. I did want to share with you guys a little bit about the schedule. I have it written down here. So it was about the same as my first interview in terms of schedule. It went from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30. We arrived there, spoke to the program director, spoke with the associate program director, then the chief resident, and the residents came. And we got to speak with them. We actually got to sit down with them for about an hour and ask them a bunch of questions. What was cool here is I actually knew the chief resident at this program. He was really cool to me, so I appreciate him. Actually, he's the reason that I got this interview, so I was very thankful for that. And then after that, I interviewed with the associate program director only for 20 minutes, asked the basic questions, what was the challenging situation that you had in med school? And that was really it. After that, it was just conversation. After that, we got a tour of the hospital. And before lunch, I had the faculty interview with an attending physician. And, that was really chill. He asked me a few questions, but more so than that, it was just getting to know, again, more so seeing what kind of human being I am, how I can handle situations under pressure, and whether I kind of fit with the program or not. We did our lunch. The lunch was good. I had a lunch, and then we actually played a game. It's called Medical Chopped. It was like the show Chopped. It was actually pretty fun. They gave us a patient, a presentation, and we had teams full of residents. We had to pick the actual diagnosis, different differentials, and the treatment. It got really competitive. I'm a competitive guy, so I enjoyed the hell out of it. And then after that, it's conclusion. Check this out. Good morning from snowy Chicago. About to go on that 5th interview. Luckily, the hospital is 5 minutes from my house. So wish me luck, guys. I'll make sure I keep you guys updated as we continue along this process. It's almost December, so I'm kind of getting used to this now. So yeah, wish me luck, guys. All right. Just got back from my interview. I wrote down notes as I have the last few interviews. The process was about the same as every interview that I've had, which was kind of comforting at this point, and I was really thankful that it's like that. There's 3 main interviews that are 15 minutes each. There have been programs that did 3 interviews that were 30 minutes each. I've seen 15 minutes was more common than 30. I did hear from other future residents who I'm interviewing with that they've had interviews where it was 2 attendings or directors and it lasted 1 hour each. I haven't seen that personally, but that was something that I did hear. Figured I'd share it with you guys. You guys might find that a little useful. So same process as always, which was nice. You get there, you get oriented. We had an intern that we met yesterday when we went on a pre-interview dinner, which was with 4 residents. It was 1 first year and a few second years, I believe. And then today we had the intern who got us oriented, and then an attending came in and he introduced us to the program, and he introduced us to all the different leadership roles that are with the program. He answered a lot of our questions for us before we even got started. Right after that, we're all in a room just hanging out, me and the other future physicians, and then everybody's getting called out for interviews. So first interview, they did ask me, so they were impressed with my CV. They asked a lot about Medspiration, and I don't stop talking when I'm asked about Medspiration. So that's super comforting because I get to talk about something I'm super passionate about. By the time it was getting close to ending, we had only done that. And then, I saw the individual who was interviewing me, they eventually rummaged through some papers and were like, okay, we got to ask this guy some questions. So, she asked me something about my grades. I didn't have the best of grades my first semester. It was because I was not dedicated. And, I'll take accountability for that. But there's a gradual improvement. I got straight A's in clinicals, and I scored 20 points higher on step 2 than I did step 1. So, there's just a gradual progression that is headed upward, right? So it's very easy to answer that. I was honest. That's one thing I've noticed is honesty has worked well at every interview. They want authenticity over you just sounding perfect. I definitely asked them questions about research, and I asked them questions about fellowship opportunities and stuff. Going into the second interview, which was also 15 minutes, these I had a lot of questions. I think you guys will find a lot of these questions very useful. So how do you approach problems? That was one of them. How would you address a teammate who you find tough to work with, right? And they said, what kind of teammate do you find hard to work with? And, that's a great question. So I enjoyed answering that. What's the best thing you've accomplished in your life? What would you say is your biggest strength? Right, and that was interesting. I haven't been asked that one before. Why my specialty that I'm applying to? I think every program is going to ask you that in any specialty that you apply to. And what do you look for and want out of a program? And then that was it for the 15-minute interview. That was second. And that was actually 2 PGY3s or PGY2s that did that second interview. There was 2 of them in the same room. It was the first time I had 2 people in the same room. It's been one-on-one. So that was new. And then last interview was with the attending, who was a badass. He asked same questions. Homie got into some illegal shit though. I heard people been saying, I've been watching YouTube, that illegal questions get asked, but I hadn't came across them until today. Got a few of those where they'll say, oh, how many interviews do you have? How many interviews do you have in the area? Are you only applying to this specialty? These were real questions. So just for everybody out there, you don't have to answer those questions. If you don't feel comfortable doing so, which I didn't personally. Why are you a great candidate? That I was asked. And that was it. After the interview process, we got lunch with the residents. And, it was actually in the hospital. They said the hospital food's pretty good. It was good. Oh, they did have us do this clinical case scenario. What they wanted was differentials and workup. I think that was just to see if we're competent. There wasn't much emphasis on it, although that was one of the first times that I did see that. So just a little update on some new things that I learned throughout this process. The program that I interviewed at just a few days ago, they offer PreMatch. 2 weeks after the interview, if they really liked you, they offer you a contract. And what they say is you have 48 hours to sign this contract. And if you do, you have matched here. I asked the program director there, I was like, hey, so what are the pros and cons, right? And he was like, we get to hand select who we like and then just offer them a contract. And that gives them a little bit more control over the process as opposed to ranking individuals and not knowing where they're going to be ranked, right? So it gives them a little bit more power. And because they hand select, they're able to kind of create the type of culture that they want at the program. So respectfully, I was like, wow, that's pretty legit. That makes sense. And then as far as cons go, I just went out to eat with one of my friends who's a med student, and his brother-in-law, he did internal medicine residency at Johns Hopkins, and then he's doing his fellowship in Hem and Onc currently, and he is the chief fellow there, right? And he was talking about how he's had experience in selecting residency applicants at his program. So he taught me a few cool facts about the match and ranking. He told me, and these are his words, that applicants have more power in ranking and matching than programs do. What he was saying is the match, it takes into account more our preference. So if you were to rank a program in the top 5 and you were in their top 25, you're likely to match there. That was interesting because, so pros and cons of PreMatch, it actually gives programs a little bit more power to hand select, and it gives us the option of just matching and not having to worry, right? Versus rank, you might have a higher opportunity of actually, getting into the program that you want, right? So this is all opinion. Came from a pretty credible source. I did want to share that with you guys. Good morning, guys. It is December 1st. I am currently preparing to fly out to New York tomorrow. So I lined up 3 interviews all in New York for the 7 days that I'm going to be there. All of my interviews so far have been in Illinois because I live in Chicago and I wanted to stay here. I wanted to remain open to New York as well. I did apply to some programs out there, and a couple really cool programs reached out and I got some interviews. I have a homie who's a 3rd-year resident right now, and he was able to talk to a chief resident that he knows in New York, and they got me another interview. For me, when I knew that I was having these away interviews, I started looking at neighboring programs, and I started seeing if I knew anybody there, and definitely just reaching out. It doesn't hurt to reach out. One of the better things that I learned also was sending emails to programs that are nearby. In the email, I would include, hey, like I'm interviewing at a nearby program and I was really interested in checking out your program as well. Would you guys be willing to extend me an interview? That's an excellent way to get more interviews. Go to conferences, guys. So for me, I went to 2 to 3 different conferences, and I'm pretty sure I got like 2 to 3 different interviews from these conferences. So for example, if you're trying to match into family medicine, go to the family medicine conference in Kansas City, right? There's one annual one every year where there's programs from every single state. I mean, hundreds of family med programs. The same goes for internal med, that'd be through the ACP, anesthesiology. So whatever your specialty is, you can Google where their national conferences are and see if the programs are going to be there. Usually they are. That is one hell of a way to just start networking. And usually, you could secure a few interviews just by going to these conferences. I know people who failed their boards at one point and still got interviews because they went to conferences. So that, I would really recommend that to each and every single one of you guys. Also, one thing I noticed, I couples matched. For me, anytime my partner got an interview, she asked the program, hey guys, I'm couples matching. Can you please extend an interview to my partner as well? I did the same. So we kind of doubled up on interviews that way. The more interviews, the better. The more programs you can rank. It is December 11th, 2018. Since the last time I checked in, I have been on 3 interviews. I flew to New York for 2, and then I just drove out 2 hours from here at this program. And so basically 3 interviews have came and gone. So the first interview that I did was flying out to New York. This was one of the biggest university programs in New York. Very, very fortunate to have had the opportunity. They did some very cool and different things I wanted to share. So we started that day in New York doing a medical Jeopardy. So if you guys have ever watched Jeopardy or played Jeopardy, I'll give you an example. This was Jeopardy on gastroenterology, right? So a few of the options, there was like ascites or spontaneous bacterial peritonitis and stuff like that. So you could be like ascites for 200, and then a question would pop up, and we had 2 teams. We were paired up with residents, and we'd ascites for 200, we'd all have to formulate an answer and answer before the other team, and whoever ends up with the most money would just get candy. So something simple, but it was a cool way to illustrate that our medical knowledge while working in a team. This interview was pretty traditional after that. I had Two specific interviews are 15 minutes each. Very, very similar questions to all the stuff that I've been interviewing at. What I did learn is, having questions either written down or having questions at the top of my head is important. So what I mean is, the program director will always be like, do you have any questions for me? Right. And that's where you want to have questions. A few go-tos that I always have is, what do you look for in a first-year resident? And that really helped me understand what they're looking for in their program and what, as a director, what qualities are important to them. Asking about the board percentage rate for that program, I found out is very important. I have a personal friend who's a resident, and he realized, that'll tell you a lot about the academic side to the program and whether, they create a successful environment for you to become board certified after you pass your residency exams. And that would be at the end of your residency. I had a second interview in New York. Yeah, one of the program directors, this was very interesting. She didn't ask me any questions. And that, I mean, if you're not prepared for that, it can get kind of awkward, right? And luckily it didn't get awkward. I had already made a list of questions for, that I could ask every program. She was very, very polite, very professional. And for her, it was, what questions do you have about me and our program? And that was different. That really allowed her to assess how prepared we were for the interview and how much we really knew about their program and how interested we were. Learning that I could ask about ancillary staff. I feel like that'll allow you to understand just how organized their program is and what will be required of you as a resident. I like to ask interns, what was the most challenging part of intern year? That's another question where if you're at a pre-interview dinner or if you're just sitting with residents, just a go-to, and I always carried this little notepad, it's a pink notepad, with me. And I'll write those questions down before I, meet up with anybody in the program. So that way, just in case there's an awkward silence, I could just open it up and be like, hey, I did have a few questions, would you be willing to answer those? And every time so far, they've been very open, very polite, and, very transparent with answering any questions that I have. A few questions a chief resident asked me during the interview. What does patient experience mean to you? That was the first time I had that asked to me. And how would you improve on patient experience? And, what makes you stand out? So those are three questions that, were asked to me in my second interview in New York. I was supposed to have a third interview in New York, but it's going to have to come in January because things just didn't line up. So after I finished those two interviews, I came back to Chicago, ended up driving out 2 hours to a program here in Illinois. This program, which I was very impressed by, had a very unique approach to the whole entire interviewing process. So that actually started with the pre-interview dinner, which was a lot more intimate than anything I had experienced. So it was a husband and a wife who were part of they're the founders of this program many years back. That was different. So know that not all pre-interview dinners are just dinners that you go out to a restaurant with just residents. There's pre-interview dinners where you go out with the chief residents, right? And third years, fourth years, there's interviews where you'll get to go to a setting where you're at someone's home. But yeah, they had something called a candidate assessment system, right? And a part of that candidate assessment system was they actually did not tell anybody who would be interviewing. They didn't disclose board scores to anybody. So whether it was a program director or whether it was residents or whether it was attendings, we interviewed with probably 5 or 6 different people on the staff and on the team. None of them knew what our board scores were going to be. Their goal was to assess, whether we're a good fit. The reason was the program director actually said themselves that we do this because we realized that, after they had residents, they made a list of the residents that were some of the best residents at that program. And then they wanted to see whether their board exam scores, such as the USMLEs, actually correlated to them being better physicians and better attendings and better residents, right? And they realized there was no correlation at all. And I found that very humbling because that really evens the playing field, right? Like once you pass your boards and you're on these interviews, you know, you could be from anywhere. You could be an IMG, you could be a US grad, but at the end of the day, the programs are really trying to see if you're a good fit. They're not really trying to, you know, just be like, oh, you got this board score, and we're going to rank you according to that. It's really great to see that some programs are just trying to look at the human. They had some clinical scenarios going through. We interview with maybe like 5-6 different people at this program, and the first 5 minutes of the interview actually had to do with like a clinical scenario. So I'll give you an example of a few. One was a MMA fighter. So they asked about me being a physician, if I would treat an MMA fighter, just because, you know, the intentions behind MMA fighting could be, you know, hurting another person, whether that, you know, interferes with my ethical or moral principles. So, you know, they gave me some scenarios about that, asked me questions about that, right? And that's a little different than just having someone ask you questions. And another one had to do with autonomy, patient autonomy. Another one had to do with pain. It was kind of cool, not just physical pain, but they asked, you know, what are some different aspects of pain that a patient could have other than physical pain? Their program director was very awesome. He asked very unorthodox questions like, what's the dream? Like, what's your dream? What up, guys? Dr. Nav coming at you live. It's February 16th today, and I submitted my rank list about 3 days ago, and I had a few more interviews, but they were about the same. I didn't have anything new to add. So, you know, by the end of the trail, I was pretty ready to get this over with. So, you know, I've tried to enjoy the process as much as possible, and it's been a very blessed time. Gotten to travel a lot, see a lot of different parts of this country that I never thought I'd see. So I have appreciated that. But yeah, I did learn something through the ranking process that I wanted to share with you guys. I have a friend who's currently a PGY3. She's a third-year resident, and she's on a committee, a ranking committee for her program. And she told me that somebody interviewed at their program, and you know, they decided that they were going to rank that program in their top 5. What they ended up doing is they emailed the coordinator, and then they called the director of that program, and they let the director know, hey, I'm going to be ranking your program in my top 5. I just want to let you guys know that, you know, I'm very interested in your program, and if you guys, if you guys want me for the program, I'm just letting you know. And, you know, she told me that this individual was ranked 14 at their program, and they moved them up to number 4. Just wanted to share that piece of advice. It doesn't mean you have to do that if you're going to be ranking your program in the top 5 that you really like. From what I heard, you know, straight from someone who's on a ranking committee, it didn't hurt their chances. So what I ended up doing is the place that I'm ranking number 1, I reached out to their chief resident, who I know personally, and I asked if that would hurt my chances, or if she thought I should go for it and let the director know that I ranked them number 1. She actually did recommend, you know, send an email and just let them know it's not going to hurt your chances. So I didn't make the call. I just sent an email. Going through this September, October, November, December, January, February. It's been 5 months, and I hope you guys have found this vlog helpful. I've tried to share as much information as I've learned. Just last reflections, I would say be yourself. Be who you are. You know, I've learned through this entire process that the more I just be myself, the more I'm likely to find where I fit in, because at this point, it's not about impressing people. Everybody has a great resume. Everybody has killed it in life, and they've gotten through med school, passed all their boards. So by the time you get to this point, it's just more, you know, this is who I am, and do I fit in with your program? It's March 2nd, man, and it's a pretty deep time, but, you know, I'm still trying to adapt, trying as hard as I can to appreciate the process. And that means being okay with the emotions that are related to fear. I'm trying to be as honest as I can with myself and with you guys, just in case you are out there and you do feel that way, that it's completely normal, and it's something that, you know, when I discuss with my colleagues, they all felt the same way. And you know, that kind of helps me feel a little bit better, because man, a part of me is like, damn, got about 9 days left, my family's about to fly out here for this, so you know, it's gonna suck if I don't match. What's going on, fam? If you guys made it this far, I really do appreciate you guys. Medspirations YouTube is nearing 65,000 subscribers. So again, if you haven't subscribed, please click that subscribe button. Help us get to 100,000. I'm trying to have that silver play button somewhere in my studio sometime soon. If you guys have questions, comments, or concerns, please comment below. I will be putting out content probably around once a week, starting from this point, at least up until the point that I start residency. So if you guys have some content that you guys would like to see, definitely comment that below as well. All right, family. Thank you guys. Take care.